Welcome back, everybody. It is week 6, 5 of 6, I think it's 6 college football, and it's the Aaron and Ben, or Ben and Aaron and Ben, whatever it is. Talk sports. I think it's Aaron and Ben.
A and B,
A and B. Yeah, my bad. A and B. Sorry, little brain fart. It's been a long day. Been up since like 5 a.m. It's okay though. And we're here again.
It's only 5:15 a.m.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So we're here today trying to win some coin for you, trying to win some back that I might have lost you last week. We'll get into that, especially we'll get into that in a little bit when we talk about our locks of the week, or excuse me, our recap from last week. But yeah, so Ben, obviously great week of football. Ole Miss, big time win against the Tigers of LSU. You're now number 4 in the country. How does it feel?
Feels good. I didn't think we would jump as high. I thought we would be like 7. I think 4 is a little high, but I mean, considering the landscape of college football, 4 seems appropriate based on the win we had and based on how unimpressive some of the top teams have been. So I'm fine with it. Feels a little high for us, and definitely not what we expected going into the season to be ranked 4 at this point of the year. But when you have a backup quarterback that is playing as good as our backup quarterback is playing, you just celebrate the good times while they're happening.
Right. So, and you mentioned backup quarterback. We talked a little bit off air last week about this. Don't know if we actually talked about it on air. We might have. Because they're obviously Ole Miss is off this week, and then I think next week is the Washington State game, which is what you said might be the return for Simmons, either that week or the week after. Yep. Where are we? Is it Simmons' team? Is it Trinidad's team? I know Lane did have some, I don't want to say negative, but some critiques on Trinidad for like a play he made. I mean, the end of the Ole Miss game was during the state game, which was an absolute classic. And so, but I did hear Lane say something about Trinidad running out of bounds. So is it still is it still going to be Simmons' team when he returns? From what you're hearing, or is it going to be Trinidad? Like, what are we doing?
I mean, from my point of view, from my vantage point, I think you have to keep playing Trinidad Chambliss. I mean, I've watched every Ole Miss game, so I would like to say I kind of can pick up on some things, and the offense runs so much more smoothly with Chambliss as the quarterback than Simmons. And could that be because Simmons is a left-handed quarterback and just everything's a little bit backwards, and Kiffin and Charlie Weiss were trying to figure that out still? Maybe. But I think Chambliss with his rushing ability really just brings a different element to the game. Simmons can run, and he was not afraid to. That's how he got injured. So he definitely can run, but Chambliss just brings a whole other aspect to the game. And the offenses look so much better with him as the quarterback. I mean, he threw an interception in the LSU game, but it was one of those where you're fine with that being an interception because it was a 50-50 ball. Like, go trust your receiver to win the ball. Yeah. And in that instance, the DB won. But yeah. I think what Kiffin said. So we'll go just not what I've said. So what I've heard, Kiffin in his press conferences has said Simmons is the starting quarterback when he's 100% healthy. That was before the LSU game. So we'll see how that goes. From Ole Miss message boards, they've said that Simmons will be 100% healthy by the Washington State game. So we'll see who starts after the bye week. And I think that'll give us a good indication. I mean, if Simmons and Chambliss split reps or however that works. But I could see both. I mean, we should blow them out, so I see both of them playing if Simmons is healthy.
And you're not in a position, and I was thinking about this, because obviously the SEC schedule is, for those who don't know, because I know other conferences and, with the new expanded conferences and stuff like that, people are doing it a little different. The SEC, what they did this year, because they knew they were staying at 8, they were obviously going to 9 next year, or at least that's the plan right now. But the SEC with 8 this year, you're playing the same teams you played last year. It's just flipped of where you played them. So off the top of my head, and this is not to, because a little back behind the scenes, my wife is an Ole Miss fan. My mother-in-law went to Ole Miss. So I obviously do not want Ole Miss to do poorly, but so I do not mean to, I guess, jinx them when I say this. Looking at the schedule, and I do know the knock on Kiffin has been, he sometimes loses a game he's not supposed to. You have 2 games. Now, they're both on the road, at Georgia and at Oklahoma, when John Mateer should be back, where they're 50-50, 60-40 type games, as from what we see right now. Now, Oklahoma could be smoke and mirrors because they really haven't played anybody, because Auburn doesn't look that good, especially offensively. And Georgia, obviously, we just saw what Bama was able to do in Athens. So because you mentioned 2 quarterbacks, is this something that you think could, if Lane doesn't make a decision as far as, and he just splits this 2 quarterbacks, do you think that's a long-term solution? Or do you think, and I don't want to give all down, but that was just a really good point that you brought up. Do you think that's a long-term solution, or do you think that's a short-term solution until they figure out what they're going to do long-term for this season?
So we've had this a little bit before where we had Matt Corral and John Rice Plumlee, and there were definitely certain packages for John Rice Plumlee to come in, and he wasn't super trusted to throw the ball. And I think initially the game plan when Simmons was fully healthy was we would have Trinidad Chambliss packages. He would come in and run the ball similar to how John Rice Plumlee was doing. But now they've seen Chambliss throw in real game scenarios, and he's done very well. It's those packages obviously expand, and you trust the quarterback a lot more. He's won you 2 SEC games, 3 games in total. It's a big deal for him to have done those things. You don't just throw him in for running packages anymore. So I think it's a different scenario than the Corral and John Rice Plumlee, because with John Rice Plumlee, you're expecting him to run 70% of the plays at least, even when he was the starting quarterback over Corral.
I'll get into some. Yeah, because I remember the Egg Bowl we were at together when.
Yeah, Corral came in the fourth quarter.
Corral came in and threw a 4th and 8. It was 4th and a mile. It was half the field or something.
Yep.
And he came in through a dart, and then obviously it's the touchdown pass to Moore. Then it's the famous hike the leg miss, and then next thing you know, it was Lane Kiffin's time in Oxford. But I think.
I don't see it being a 2-quarterback system. I think he's going to roll with one of them. And I actually just had this conversation with someone was texting me, and another Ole Miss fan was asking about it, and I was just I think that you have to roll with Chambliss. He's a senior. This is probably your only year. He's asking for a waiver to get another year, but it's unlikely he gets it.
Just have him get Diego's lawyer. Diego's trying to get Diego 3 more seasons or something
Yeah, he might need to reach out for sure, I think. But the thing with Simmons, the only reason you play Simmons is because you see a huge amount of potential and you don't want him to transfer, and you want him to remain happy on the team. But Chambliss came in and won the job. It sucks that it happened because of injury, but you don't go and play how he's played, win all these Player of the Week awards, win all these accolades in 3 weeks, and then you're just all right, back to the bench.
We're going to go back to
Simmons didn't.
Right. And
Simmons didn't. We won.
Talked about off air.
Yeah.
I know we talked about off air, but it's a lot reminiscing of now. Chambliss is a lot better athlete. They're both, I think, better than the 2 quarterbacks that Georgia had, at least from what I can see. But this reminds me of the J.T. Daniels, Stetson Bennett situation at Georgia, where J.T. Daniels was highly recruited, highly sought after, transferred into Georgia, was thought to be, hey, this is going to be the Georgia quarterback that reminds you of Matt Stafford, takes them over the top. And it turned out it was his backup because he had an oblique strain or something, missed a couple weeks, and kind of like Chambliss like Simmons, where he has an injury that it's not going to get any better unless you just rest, which that is the same thing as that's what a high ankle sprain is. And you mentioned the mobility. That high ankle sprain is not, unless he had the type of procedure done, it's not going to be, and even then, it's not going to be 100% until probably until after the season. like until next year probably is when he'll be truly 100%. And so if you are that, then if you play you play Simmons, it takes that running quarterback kind of out of the equation that Chambliss brings you as he is healthy right now, brings you more throughout. But yeah, didn't want to get too bogged down. But yeah, I think I'm on the same page as you, especially when if you think about Ole Miss, like you have a chance now to do something that not that many people were expecting, especially after the way all the talent you lost last season. Of you're staring a playoff like in the face, like I mentioned those two games, and even if because I think you'll beat Oklahoma, because I don't know, I think they'll beat Oklahoma, and then Georgia I think the toss up. So even if you beat Oklahoma, you can afford the Lane Kiffin-esque, in air quotes, loss of losing to a team you're not supposed to lose to. But I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know your remaining schedule, but you've already played 3 SEC games, so it can't be that difficult outside of those two games, and then you obviously have the Egg Bowl. I don't know who your other two your other two conference games would be.
Florida,
South Carolina, and South Carolina.
Florida.
Yeah,
South
and
Carolina
they're both
at home,
and both at home, because it wasn't Florida in this. So in Florida, you'll be playing the corpse of Billy Napier's job probably by that point. Hopefully we fire him. Anyway, didn't want to get too bogged down, but did want to congratulate Ben and the Rebels on an amazing victory, though they did not hit the over. So I'm sorry, folks. I went 0-2. I gave you the over. It didn't come close. I gave you Syracuse +5. Syracuse +25 didn't even hit, guys. I apologize. Went 0-2 in the locks. We then went 2-0. He hit it was New Mexico -14. And what was your other one?
It was Oklahoma State covering 21 against Baylor.
Yeah, and because that was the interim coaching bump, and obviously we had the same kind of picks in the games. We both went 3-2. We missed on the Georgia game because we missed on Georgia because we both picked them against to beat Alabama and cover, and USC Lincoln Riley still can't win a big game in the Big Ten. Excuse me. So that leads us to this week. It's a little different because we do bring you 5 games. We talk about ranked on ranked matchups. There's only 2 of those this week, lowest amount of number we've had. So the 5th game is actually going to be a special from our producer, Corey. He brought his, quote, game of the week. And once you hear the game, you might be thinking, is my game of the week? No, I had another game already picked out, but he gave one of these picks as his lock of the week, so we kind of just took it at that. But the first game we're going to talk about is game day is there. It is Alabama hosting Vanderbilt, a 10 versus number 16 matchup. Who would have thunk it, guys? In the era of the transfer portal and everything, Vanderbilt is top 16 and they're undefeated. Going into Tuscaloosa, college game day will be there. Let's see. Diego Pavia, he talked all that noise on Busting with the Boys this offseason, saying they're going in to win it again. We'll see. But Bama's favored by 10.5, over-under set at 55.5. Ben, I'll give you first dibs on this. What is your kind of pinpoint of this game? Where are you feeling?
I don't think it's going to be a repeat of last year, in the sense that I don't think that Vanderbilt's going to take Alabama by surprise. I think Bama's going to be fully prepared. And obviously the Bama offense looks very different with Ty Simpson versus Jalen Milroe. Ty Simpson is not going to run for 100 yards, but he sure can hit some short and intermediate passes. Bama still is not great at running the ball. I think Vanderbilt is still a very scrappy team, still can get the much needed yards, like the needed yards when like third down comes, fourth down comes. I think that the spread is way too big. 10.5 right now is what it's at, right? So I think Vanderbilt could easily cover that. I think it's going to be a really close game, similar to last year. Like Vanderbilt, started off with really strong, kind of hit. Well, it was like 14-3 at half or 17-3 at half or something like at one point early in the game. Yeah. And then Bama came back, so I think
they were still plus money.
I think it'll be
like they were up by like 2 scores, like late in the third, or they might have been like one score game late in the third, but they were winning, and there was still like plus money on like to live bet it, which I thought was insane. Just because watching the game, it wasn't like okay, because it wasn't one of these games where you expect Bama just to come out and they're just gonna, like, you could tell they weren't gonna, because that would have happened at halftime. You could tell, like, as the third quarter started, like, hey, this game, like, this is gonna get dicey, like, for Bama, and it got dicey to the point where Vandy ran the clock out.
If for whatever reason anyone listening has not watched the highlights of that game, you have to go watch. But there's a 4th and 1 play in the third or fourth quarter where Diego Pavia just throws an absolute dime into the end zone. 4th and 1 throws like a 30 or 40-yard touchdown.
Yeah,
best play I've ever seen him.
Yeah, that was the play.
That was like the play of the year.
Because I mean, I think they were obviously 6-6 last year, but yeah, continue.
I'll just go and say I got Vandy money line. I think they're gonna pull some magic again, and they're a really good team. You watch Clark Lee talk all last year when he had a lot of spotlight on him because of how the team was performing way over expectations. He said in previous years he was trying to get guys that were good for the culture, good for good teammates, good for Vanderbilt academics, and then when he brought Diego Pavia on, he shifted his focus a little bit more, and it's like, we need some jerks, we need some dirt bags, we need some guys that have some fire in their hearts and some fiery personalities, and they got those, and they're a really talented team, and the logo can fool you, but they are a very good team.
Yeah, they are a very good team. Their defense, and I'll say this, and then I'll give a pick later, but their defense I think is really improved over last season, just from what I've seen. Now it could also be, I don't want to say smoking. Well, no, I think they did give up 30 to Georgia State, but it was also, which I think just proves the ineptitude that is South Carolina, and then Kentucky, because Kentucky made Lenore Sellers look like the guy everyone's been talking about was like a top 10 pick, all that stuff. But don't want to digress there. I just know, hey, even if Mississippi State goes 0-8, we are not the worst team in the SEC this season. But yeah, so I'm with you in the sense that I think Vandy 10.5 or the 10.5 line is too big. I'm surprised it is that high. I think a lot of it has to do with what happened last week with Bama beating Georgia. But if I'm not mistaken, Bama's last game before this game last year was they played Georgia and they beat Georgia. And then they kind of walked into Nashville and in front of a high school stadium with a scoreboard that was on a projector. They got their butts kicked. And so this is the game, and I kind of talk about it where it should be, and I've talked about it a couple weeks ago with, I think, the Mississippi State Northern Illinois game, in the sense that this is the game, if you're Kalen DeVore, that I'm not going to say you have to win to save your job, but if you lose, it's like, what are you doing? Like, in the sense of, you can easily just put on the tape from last year and say, hey guys, this is what we did last season. Like, this is like, we slept off into this game after an emotional win against Georgia, and we got our butts kicked. We gave it 40 points to Vanderbilt on the road. Now, granted, it was on the road, but you gave it 40 points to Vanderbilt. You ran through everything. So I think the 10.5 is too big, but I do like the over. I'll get to that a little bit later in the segment. Of course, people might want to start fading me after going 0-2 last week, but I'm just getting. Hey, we're filling it out, guys. But yeah, give me for the picks for this show purposes, give me Vandy the 10.5. I won't go as far as to say Vandy's going to win, just because I do give the Tuscaloosa-esque. It is in Tuscaloosa, but I will say this. And Nick Saban's going to be there all week because it is game day, and he's probably actually coaching the team this week for all we know. But so we'll move on
I'll just point out last time you said that like when we were talking about the Notre Dame Texas A&M game, you were like, Notre Dame needs this game, and what did they do? They lost the game. So it
They
doesn't
did.
matter
They did.
necessarily if
I don't
Bama
think
needs the
now.
game or
I
not.
don't think Bama necessarily needs this game. Now, if they lose this game, it does get dicey to make the playoff because that's your second loss, and
Yeah.
that means you pretty much have to go perfect the rest of the way. And they still have Tennessee on deck. I mean, Auburn's always going to be a scrappy game, especially if it since it's in Auburn. I'm not 100% sure on their schedule the rest of the way, but it could get dicey for Bama if they lose this game. And for Vanderbilt, you're playing with house money because if you win this game, you're now talking playoff. And if they win this game, I think Diego Pavia might go number 1 in the draft just because that's what he said he was going to do. He said they were making the playoff this year. He said they were beating Bama. And I'm going to check the odds. If they win this game, I'm going to check the odds to see what it is for him to be a first-round pick. I'm just saying. I understand he's my height and weight, but the guy can sling it. The guy's a gamer. I think, you talked about Clark Lee and, bringing Diego kind of to change the culture. I remember watching that SEC thing, and he said the guy's like 5'10", but he plays like he's 6'4". Like he has the moxie of a quarterback that's 6'4", with all of the. Sorry, Corey, for that little thing that spike you're gonna see on my thing. I just dropped my phone, but didn't want to. But so moving on to the second ranked game of the weekend, and then we'll get into Ben's game of the week. It's the University of Miami, the U, number 3 in the country, playing at Florida State. Florida State dropping all the way down to 18 after losing on the road last week to Virginia. Miami's favored by 4.5. Over under set at 53.5. I will kick this one off. I don't know if anyone watched that Florida game or Florida State Virginia game. You should have. It was an absolute classic. It was a great game.
Yep.
Fastest field storm I've ever seen in my entire life. Like there was no form of security. Like nothing whatsoever. I want to check. I want to check the status on the Florida State receiver that the ball was thrown to and the Virginia DB, because both of them had to be trampled because they were both on the ground when it was students and whatever rushing the field. So I do want to know the status of them. I'm sure we would have heard if they were actually hurt.
You remember like Black Friday, people get trampled all the time.
Right.
People get serious injuries from stuff like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I was talking because one of my bosses at work is actually a Florida State fan. I was like, "Is your receiver okay?" He goes, "I don't know." He was like, I think he is, but at the same time, like no one could tell. And then you're down on the field, they're trying to find. I think it was Chris Budden was the sideline receiver for ESPN. They couldn't find her, so they were just like, "Hey, Chris, we can't find you. We can't get a cameraman down there. We're just going to send it to you, and it's just going to be audio." And she's like, "Okay." And she's talking to Tony Elliott. I'm sure she talked to the quarterback as well. It was a great game. But that leads me to say the over is the play at 53.5. Miami has looked really good offensively outside of the Florida game. But the Florida game, I think they were somewhat playing with their food in the sense that they knew they kind of were doing what LSU did. Now, granted, LSU's offense, I think Nussmeier was hurt. But LSU kind of was making mistakes to keep them in the game. They weren't fully divulging the full playbook. I think Miami will do that in this game just because this is a game for that. If you win this game for Miami, your ticket is pretty much punched to the ACC title game because they don't play Georgia Tech. They play Clemson, but I think they play Clemson. If not, Clemson's a joke. So I know for sure they don't play Georgia Tech. And so you kind of have an easy path to the playoff, but also to the ACC title game if you win this. So, but you also have a somewhat easy path if you lose this game to the ACC title game because Florida State does have that loss against Virginia, but they would have the head-to-head. But I think Florida State maybe drops another game on that schedule. But give me Miami in the points and give me the over as far as my picks for this game. I just think it's Carson Beck, I think, has completely revitalized his career as far as college-wise and his NFL draft stock. But so give me the points with Miami and the over.
I could see that. It's hard not to imagine Florida State bouncing back, though. I think
and it is in Tallahassee.
Castellanos just has some swagger, man. He's a baller. He
This might
even
be
admitted post game.
This might be the week of the quarterbacks with swagger because you had Castellanos and Pavia. This has put up a shut-up time for both of them. Because if Florida State loses this game, they're probably out of the playoff.
Yeah, post game for against Virginia, he said that they're looking ahead. So I think if you're going to say that in the interview, you better have a good game plan and be ready to prove that you were looking ahead. And so I think it's hard. Like 4.5, I think it's going to be a lot closer game than that. I really do like Miami, like the talent on offense. Carson Beck, like you said, he actually has some receivers that can catch the ball that he's throwing it to. It's a huge plus. Their running backs are really good as well in Miami. Their defense is solid. I think they have not seen an offense that can show what Florida State can show. So I would say that Florida State's going to cover the 4.5, what it's at now. I do trust Miami to win. I think Carson Beck's been in a bunch of these big games. I'm not confident. I would prefer to take Florida State covering over Miami money line.
Picking a side, I got you.
I think Florida State's going to cover. I think Florida State could win. That's why I wouldn't be super confident on the money line. But I think the over is a good play because Florida State's offense is going to show a lot. What's their number 0 for them? Their safety, Florida State safety, is just absolute stud. So I think he transferred from Bama maybe, but he's so good. He's going to make a play if there's a prop bet for him to get a pick or a forced fumble or sack or something. He's probably going to get one of those turnover-worthy plays.
They didn't make prop bets in Tennessee legal for college football games. I see guys post them all the time because there's certain states that allow it, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like come on, Tennessee.
I love the commercials mid-game. It's like the commercial mid-game is like, if you bet on these players to do these things, don't send them hateful DM messages about them not doing what you thought they would do. It's your choice to bet. Like, it is true, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah. But I think, and I can see that. I probably won't. And if I bet anything on the game, it'll be the over. I just think Florida State showed a lot of holes in the way they played last week. And that's part of the reason why I think Miami has a chance. But it is at home, and it is a bounce back spot. It's a quintessential bounce back spot where you played. You have an extra, but you do have an extra day to prepare. But Miami,
it's going to be rocking.
It's going to be I mean, we thought the Bama game was rocking. This is Saturday night, Tallahassee. This rivalry game actually means something to both teams the first time in a while because it's been either Miami's been down, Florida State's been down. This is where this rivalry lived in the 90s and the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s when we were just young pups. But so that takes us to games of the week for the three of us. Again, Corey, you picked a game for the week for us this week as well to give us the 5. We'll start with Ben's. Ben, what is your game of the week on the docket, under the radar kind of thing?
I'm going to go Michigan State, Nebraska. So stay with the Big Ten. I think Nebraska is favored by 11.5 at the current moment. We're recording on Wednesday night. Nebraska, Dylan Raiola, Patrick Mahomes Jr. They're pretty talented. They're not like stellar on offense. They're pretty average on, maybe above average on both sides of the ball. They're not like spectacular. The fact that they're favored by 11.5 against Michigan State, who's I think more equal than anything to them. They're at least climbing their way up to being equal with them.
Yeah.
I think that the spread is way too big. I think Aiden Childs is continuing to develop and progress and gain more and more experience as a starter. I think Michigan State's going to cover that spread easily, potentially even upset them. I mean, Nebraska, they got to win some big games, man. They can't even beat Michigan in like a really down year, so I've got Michigan State to cover. If you want to go crazy, you could bet money line. I wouldn't do that necessarily, but
yeah, I think my just 2 cents on this game is I feel like Nebraska has been talked about as a team that could compete for a playoff spot even before when we were still at a 14 since like 2018, 2019 when Frost was getting started, and it's like they never win the big game. And this isn't even, I would say, a big game, so to speak, because it's not against a ranked opponent. It is a home game. But this is a game, if you're Nebraska and you want to try to start kind of, because you've seen other teams in the Big Ten take losses. Now, this is not to say that if they win this game, they're going to get to Indy, but this is to say, hey, you win this game and you just stack up wins, you might end up 10-2, 11-1, and we saw what that did for Indiana last season when Indiana maybe didn't have the quintessential big win, but what they did have was they went 8-1 and one of the top two conferences in college football. That's my thing, and like the thing with Nebraska is like they're supposed to do, like they've been talked about they're going to do this, and then they just never do. Like they were in the prime position to beat Michigan and then go on a run that could see them go 10-2, go 11-1, have that marquee win, and they just haven't done it. So I like that pick as far as the 11.5 is concerned, just because I do agree that is way too.
Yeah, I mean, even if Nebraska wins, when have they proven they can pull away? That's
right. Thing. Exactly. Yeah, like they'll pull away against Akron, but Akron's terrible. I mean,
right.
They're awful. But yeah, so and like their head coach has to like cuss them out when they're up 30 to be like, hey, we got to step on their necks. It's like if you have to do that in the middle of a game against Akron, what are you going to have to do when you're playing Michigan State and you're down 14-10 at the half? Not saying it's going to happen, but like who knows? But yeah. And then
first half
that'll
bet.
lead us to,
You heard it. Aaron said it first.
Michigan State money line first half. See what the odds are when you listen to this, boys and girls. And that'll take us to my game of the week. That is the University of Florida Gators hosting Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns. Arch and the Longhorns, they were favored at 7 this morning, and that line has moved down the half to 6.5. Over under set at 41.5, I believe. And that's so
low for a college football game.
It's so low for a college football game, especially the SEC. I mean, we're probably used to seeing totals like that in the SEC, like back in the early 2010s when you had LSU and Bama and Georgia's defense was just absolutely killing people. But I think that just proves the talent, not necessarily talent disparity, but the just terribleness that are these two offenses. And I was listening to Josh Pace trying to see what his lines or what his thoughts on the games were, and I mean him do disagree, because I think he actually thinks Florida's going to upset Texas. But he mentioned that Florida's running back, and his name's escaping me, like he had 10 carries and 12 carries. Well, yeah, he had 10 carries against LSU. He had 12 carries against Miami, but he still averages like 6.5 yards a carry. And like he goes on to say like he thinks they're gonna like if they run the ball they'll win, and like they could. And not saying like that's not true, but Billy Napier, unless something was told to him in the bye week, like, hey, if you don't run the ball 25 times with this kid, I'm firing you on the spot. I don't care what happens. Something like, who's to say Billy Napier doesn't just go into like, hey, DJ Lagway, he's a 5-star. He's going to show what he can do. I'm going to throw the rock around. And plus, Texas front seven is probably one of the best front sevens in the country. Their DBs are also really good, and that's what leads me to take Texas with the 7.5, with the 7 and the 6.5 especially. Just because even if Arch doesn't play well, you can't tell me that DJ Lagway's. I mean, the Florida offense just hasn't proven themselves that they're going to make the plays to cover that number. I mean, we both took them. I think it was 7.5 or 9.5 against Florida, and they lost because Lagway threw 5 picks. I think the Miami number was at like 4.5, 5.5, and Miami won by like it was a 2-possession game. And so this game could easily go under, but be like 17-7 or 24-10, and Texas easily covers because Lagway and that offense just can't get it going. Until Billy Napier realizes that what's hurting the offense, at least from what I can see as an outside observer who watches their games, is his play calling. He's about to get fired because of his play calling, and he doesn't want to give up the reins of play calling. And that's on you, dude. Like, that's on you. So I don't see Florida winning this game. I don't. Now, granted, Florida's defense is the real deal. It is the swamp. It is, I believe, a night game or a late-ish game. So, like, I get that can be very intimidating, and Arch has not proven that he can go into intimidating. I mean, the last time he was in an intimidating, hostile environment on the road, he looked completely inaccurate at times for most of the game against Ohio State, besides the touchdown and that long pass at the end of the game to the tight end. But yeah, give me Texas, and probably I would say the under.
Yeah, I think just to feed off your point that you made at the very beginning, like, not only are the offenses fairly incompetent, and I mean not incompetent, but they're both not great. They're also great defenses on both teams. So
Right.
You combat, like, okay, our offense is struggling. Oh, we have to play great defense. Like, Texas is not going to all of a sudden become great offense against Florida, and Florida's offense is not all of a sudden going to become great against Texas. Even
Right.
if, like Josh Pate's saying, even if Billy Napier's like, oh, we need to run the ball a bunch, it doesn't mean you can against Texas, right? So, like, Damian Ball might have 6.5 yards a carry when they're running 10 times a game against LSU, but can you do it against Texas? Especially when they want you to throw the ball after what you did against LSU. So I lean Texas. I'm not. It's another one of those things where it's like when we previewed the Illinois Indiana game, which went crazy for Indiana's side. Like, I'm not super excited about either of these teams offensively. Like, they're not. I think Texas's talent, top to bottom, is championship, but like a playoff team.
Right.
Florida's could be if they put it together. Like, they're talented teams, but can they figure something out? They're not going to figure it out against each other.
Right.
And Texas hasn't even been able to figure it out against bad teams, let alone against good teams. So,
and that's my thing. And the other thing with me, that leans me towards Texas, is that I think Sark does realize that even if I think Sark, because of the way he saw the Ohio State game go, if he feels like taking Arch out of the game in the sense of, like, let's say they get that running game going, not saying they will, but let's say they get 3-4 yards to carry, and they're just like, hey, we're just going to ground and pound Florida, and we're just going to run the ball, and Arch is going to do play action. I am more confident in Steve Sarkisian making that adjustment and that decision than I am Billy Napier.
Yeah, 100%. I'll say we've talked about both of these quarterbacks. I don't know if the videos ended up getting posted, but Arch Manning, kind of along the same lines of Cade Klubnik, 5-star, hasn't been that great so far. Like, just not that. Just Drew Aller, same thing. Like, not that great so far. So, and then DJ Lagway has been great. We talked about DJ Lagway before. It's like, he has been great, especially at the end of last year. And what was he out of high school? He was at the top dual threat quarterback. And what is Florida not doing? They're not running him. Part of that is because he's had some injury issues during the spring and fall and last year. I mean, you got to run him, though. Like, if you're not going to run your best running back, sorry for banging the mic around. If you're not going to run your best running back, run your quarterback some at least. Like, do something to change it up. Your offense clearly isn't working. Figure something out. I think Texas wins. I don't feel confident that they cover because Florida is just like this team where I think they should be better, so much better than they are, talent-wise, and with DJ Lagway. Like, if Simmons wants to just obviously I'm an Ole Miss fan, so like if Simmons wants to transfer and Chambliss doesn't get another year, DJ Lagway, please come on down. Like we could do Kiffin and Lagway could be a perfect marriage. Like that'd be so sick. But anyways, that's a future wish list.
Right, yeah, that's all season type.
I don't think Ole Miss has the money for Lagway, but we'll see.
Who knows? Yes, but now that gets us into our last game for Game of the Week. Gets us to Corey's game, and you probably could tell.
Producer Corey.
Viewers, Producer Corey. You probably could tell by the way I kind of teased it. He did have Mississippi State as one of his picks. We'll get into that later. But Mississippi State against A&M. Aggies are favored by 14.5. Over under. Trying to get the live one is set at 55.5. A&M is 4-0, 5-0. I think they're 4-0 because I think that had a bye week before they had Auburn. So 4-0. And then Mississippi State 4-1 after that heartbreaking loss last week against Tennessee. Ben, I'll get you to give your thoughts on this game first, and then I'll give my thoughts, and then that'll lead us into our locks for the parlay.
I think the line's way too big. 14.5. Texas A&M is not covering. I think Mississippi State's DBs are good enough to combat Texas A&M's vertical, like downfield. Huh?
I said if they're healthy. So Kelly Jones, who's our top corner, from what I've heard, he's okay. But he did not play majority of that. He did not play the last couple series in the Tennessee game, but he did come back out for like the Hail Mary, which was kind of weird. And then obviously Tennessee was one play touchdown in overtime. And then Isaac Smith, same deal. I think they both just got banged up, but they both, I think, are expected to play. I haven't heard anything about them being out, but they're both expected to play, I think, against Texas A&M. But they could be. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did want to say, like, we do have inside reports as far as injuries. So on my end as well, and just like Ben has his with Simmons's little ankle. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, I think if healthy, which we think that they will be,
right.
Mississippi State has quality defensive backs that should be able to match up relatively well. Texas A&M's receivers are very, very good, but I think Mississippi State has a lot of talent on their back end, and their front seven has played really well. So I think what Marcel Reed and Le'Veon Moss and the other Texas A&M running back have to offer offensively, I think Mississippi State can combat about as good as anyone. And then offensively, Texas A&M, Notre Dame scored 40? They lost like 41-40 or something. So I think Mississippi, Texas A&M show their defense is gettable.
And our holder can hold a snap unlike Notre Dame. So if it comes down to a hold, we will do that well.
That's important, and if it comes down to a hold, Texas A&M's definitely not covering the 14.5. So
exactly.
I think Texas A&M has shown they're gettable on defense. Mississippi State can take full advantage of that with their 1-2 punch at running back, and then Shapen taking the deep shots that he's so good at. So I can't see a world in which Texas A&M covers 14.5. I'll let you take over, and I can get my final win-loss prediction after.
Right, yeah. So that Tennessee game, I think that is the most, I don't want to say happy because obviously not happy when you lose, but that is the best feeling I've had after a loss in about an hour, 2 hours after. Because that hour, 2 hour after, you're still kind of sad about the loss. I walked away from that feeling the best I had about a loss for Mississippi State since, I couldn't tell you, probably a game with Mike Leach. And part of the reason was because I did think back, and Brandon Walker said this on the Unnecessary Roughness podcast. Think back to this time last year when we were uncompetitive at home against Toledo. And we just took Tennessee, who's a top 15 team, possibly top 10 team, We took them to the brink, and we took them to overtime. And we did it by not being gimmicky with deep balls, with, trick plays that we did convert a fake punt, and then that was immediately washed out by a strip sack because our left tackle just decided not to block this particular play. Or right tackle, because he did come, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Anyway, no, left tackle. But yeah, so I do think we can cover the 14.5 because I think that A&M, like you said, with the Notre Dame game, like if you have playmakers on offense and you do what you can to give them the ball, I think you can exploit A&M. That's what Auburn did not do last week. Like their one touchdown was because of a pick that got returned to like the 5-yard line. And besides that, like Auburn did nothing offensively, but that's because Jackson Arnold just could not get the ball out and could not could not get the ball to Cam Coleman, who's an absolute beast for Auburn. I imagine he'll enter the portal this fall or this winter. But yeah, so I think the 14.5, I like it for us. I do, if I'm picking the total, I'd probably lean under, just because it is in College Station. But this is a game that this is another instance where if we're in this, because I think last week I said I just want to be competitive, and I want it to be a game in the fourth quarter. And if it's a game in the fourth quarter for most of the fourth quarter, I would be happy again. Now, obviously, if it's a game in the fourth quarter and we lose again, that would suck again. But yeah, I think definitely you can see that Levy's doing all the right stuff, and we have the guy with the future guy in Carmario Taylor, and kind of one of your points at the beginning of the show, quarterback packages with, like you mentioned, Ole Miss and John Rice Plumlee. If we're going to continue to use Carmario, which I don't know if we are, because he just played in his fourth game. And so you do run the risk so obviously if he plays another game, the red shirt is null and void. But if we are going to use him, I think we have to throw the ball with him. Like the plays he played in last week it was like a 2nd and 10 in the red zone. He came in and it was a quarterback design run. And I'm like, throw the ball, like do a pop pass, like something, because the entire, and he kind of showed frustration with the play selection because they're like, hey, go in and run it. And then he got a yard and he was just, he kind of was showing frustration, like, hey, let me throw. And I think he does, like, if you are going to use him in that kind of situation, I think you have to use all of his tools, not just because if he goes in there and throws a pick, it is what it is. You can at least say, okay, we tried. But it's one of those things, like, if you don't.
That's the most frustrating thing about the 2 quarterback system is, like, when the second quarterback comes in and the plays, there's just, like, no threat that the second quarterback's going to throw it at all, and the defense just tees off, and they're, like, not worried at all. That's the most frustrating thing. Like, John Rice, no one ever thought he was going to run. Like, no one ever thought he was going to throw. I'm like, just throw it. He played quarterback for us the year before. He can throw.
Right.
Just do it. Just do it. Just throw, make them respect it. Do it at least once or twice so they can't just, like, it makes the run packages you're doing with your backup quarterback so ineffective if they have no threat of throwing. You have to throw.
Right. Yeah.
It's common sense.
I'm completely with you there. So that's our games. Now that takes us into our locks of the week. Corey's locks are, I kind of mentioned it, kind of teased it with the game. He is taking Mississippi State plus 14.5. He's also continuing. He hit on the Notre Dame bet last week. He's going back with the Irish. Irish, as of right now, are favored by 20.5 against Boise State. Ben, I know what your 2 locks are, but tell the folks at home what they are.
New Mexico State money line and New Mexico money line. New Mexico is my freaking betting darling right now. They win every game that I think they will. They cover every spread I think they will. They're amazing. Both of these teams, New Mexico State and New Mexico, are both underdogs in the games they're playing.
Right.
I don't understand it. Someone I would love to have it explained to me how they're underdogs, but I'm taking them to win. Like, make that money, guys. Make that money.
Yeah, and my 2 locks of the week are kind of mentioned at the beginning, but I do like the over in Vandy, Alabama. I just think, because I did think back to last year where it was, I think the final score was like 40 something to 30. It was a one-score game, but it was like 40 to 35, 42-35. So let's just say it's 40-35. That's 75. This over-under set 55.5. So even if both defenses are, let's just say, 10 points better, and so you knock it down 20, you're right at the number, and you're just looking for an extra point, 2-point conversion kind of deal. I easily think that this could be a 31-20, 27 game, kind of game where it's
another
like close.
if you're.
Yeah. And then
I'll say if your state does allow player props, number 18, the safety for Bama, is playing out of his mind right now. If you do like over tackles or forced fumble or something, he's definitely hitting that. So, just saying.
And then my other lock of the week is give me Cal +3 against Duke. That's a late kick for Duke. That's a 10.5. That's a 10.5. That's a 10:30 body clock kickoff. Excuse me, for the Blue Devils, having to travel all the way across to Berkeley for a 7:30 game local time, a 10:30 body clock kickoff for the Blue Devils, and the Cal quarterback. I think we said it on a show that couldn't get posted, or that didn't get posted, where I can't pronounce his name, but he's a stud. I took the money line against Minnesota.
That's when I took Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah, it was when you took Minnesota, and I kind of liked Cal. So give me Cal. You know what? Forget the +3.5. Let's just go ahead and let's put the money line on it. Let's juice this baby. So again, the over in Bama and Bama Vandy in the Cal money line. That's +124. Ben's are the 2 New Mexico schools, both going off money line at +114. And then Corey's is Notre Dame -20.5, Mississippi State +14.5. That is a +7,100 bet for you boys and girls at home. That means a $10 bet wins you $710. $100 bet wins you $7,100. So good luck to everybody if you do bet with us, if you do ride with us. Hopefully we hit it, and hopefully if we don't hit it, I am not the 2 legs that miss it. Because if you had taken Corey and Ben's bets last week and just taken mine out, you would have hit the parlay, everybody. And that takes us into our each of us giving our parlay of the week. And Ben, hit him with yours.
Oh Lord, which one do you want me to do?
Oh yeah,
I'll do the highest paying. I'll do the highest paying.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, one sec.
I'm trying to put mine together on here as well, so that's why I'm trying to do that.
Okay, I think the last one that we put in was the highest paying. Okay, so we got Baylor -6.5 against Kansas State. We got the under 57.5 against Army. We got Army at UAB under 57.5. SMU -17.5 against Syracuse. I mean, Syracuse just looked so bad last week. Unfortunately.
I thought about making that one of my locks just out of spite.
UConn -7.5 against Florida International. Should be an easy one there. Boise State. Actually, I'm going against Corey on this one. Boise State +20.5 against Notre Dame. Kent State +45.5 against Oklahoma. Oklahoma without John Mateer. I feel like 45.5 is a whole lot of points to score with your backup quarterback, or to win by with your backup quarterback. I got Mississippi State money line against Texas A&M. I got Wyoming +3.5 against UNLV. UNLV is not too bad, but Wyoming's pretty solid as well. Could be a 3-point game. We'd hit that. And they got Fresno State minus 14 against Nevada, and Texas State minus 13.5 against Arkansas State. And that is, I bet, $5, and that'll pay $9,200.
So my parlay, I did went with some spread alts or some alt spreads for this one. I have SMU minus 13.5 against. So I changed the line. SMU minus 13.5 against Syracuse. We mentioned I thought about making that my lock of the week. Just had a spike. Same reason I did Syracuse last week. Out of spike against Duke. I have Cal, who I think can win the game outright, but I have them plus 6.5 hosting Duke. I have Louisville minus 4.5. Hosting Virginia. I think it's one of those, letdown spots for Virginia at coming off a big win, expecting to be ranked, not ranked type deal.
Yep.
I have Georgia minus 17.5 against Kentucky. And then I have, you kind of mentioned the Kent State. I actually buffed that up a little bit. I have Kent State plus 48.5 against Oklahoma. That is plus 990 on the on DraftKings on the odds. So a $10 bet would win you right at $100 right now.
Nice. Just to clarify, this is a silly question, but you think, so if Oklahoma only wins by 49, that hits? So you just gave yourself more cushion, or 48?
No. 40. It's 48 it's 48. So I just gave myself, so you kind of gave yourself more cushion. So I did about 3 points on each side, or 3.5 on some days.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that's the picks. Good luck to you. Again, follow us on the Twitter. That is at AB Talk Sports. We only have 7 followers, guys. So this means a lot of you aren't cashing. That's all I got to say. And you're not dealing with the fun. You're not. I mean, we put bets out there and they're kind of crazy, but at the same time, hey, if one hits, everything that you see gets upgraded. Just imagine that. Like my kind of still photo, not still, but like my kind of jacked up, recording probably gets all fixed. So just imagine that, guys. If you want better quality, hit the follow button, like the video, subscribe to the channel, like the Twitter, or follow the Twitter or X, whatever I'm supposed to call it. But yeah, so that is the episode for this week. Good luck and happy picking, boys and girls.
That's right.